because it just works. It just brings peace. And the outside world thinks that we are crazy. Hello lovely feminine friends, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here, especially those of you who are returning subscribers, those of you who like my videos, who actually press the like button. I appreciate you so much. For those of you who leave your comments down below, because you know I'm really invested in the comment section and I love taking time out of my day to go through all the comments and reply to the ones that I can. I just want to extend a warm hug and honestly just continue to outpour my love and appreciation for all of you. Now at this point I am heavily pregnant. You probably can't see, you might be able to see it a little bit in my face. I'm retaining some water. I talked about this in my previous video. But anyway, if you are interested in following more of my personal life, I will try to get out another vlog, or you can go on Instagram where I post more so daily updates and you will get the latest information there. Today we're going to unpack another sensitive topic in the Coffee and Chat series. And if you've been a long-time subscriber on the channel, you know that in the Coffee and Chat series, we tackle more so sensitive topics. This video is similar to the one that I made maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I can't remember, about lies young women believe, but it's different in the sense that I'm actually going to divulge my own personal experience and some mistakes that I made in my late teens as well as early 20s as I approach my 30s, and I'm still in my 20s for a couple more years, just hanging on, you know. But I think it's a perfect time to reflect on all the things that I've gone through, the mistakes that I've made, the lessons that I've learned, and how I turned my life around to actually be a reflection of what I truly desired rather than the pressures of what society was imposing on me. So without further ado, let's just dive right into the topics with the first one, which is quite relevant to my current condition, where I believed getting pregnant would be more so easy. Now it is for some women. Many women have unexpected pregnancies, for example, but I think there's this overall pervasive thought that young women are told, especially when they are teenagers, that you can become pregnant kind of like going to a fast food restaurant and ordering a burger. Now I am all for abstinence until you find the person that you are meant to be with, but that is a totally separate topic. What I'm talking about more so is when you find that person and you're trying to get pregnant, the assumption that it's going to happen on the first month. But statistically, for people under the age of 30, it takes at least 3 months up to a year, barring any type of fertility concerns from both your side and your husband's side. And for this reason, there are so many people who put off having children because they do think that it is something that can come instantaneously. But what I have come to learn when I went through cycle syncing, getting to know my cycle, I had to reset my hormones. I had to take supplements. I had to get to know my body. I had to understand and actually track for several months certain days of the month where I was the most fertile. And if you've been a long-time subscriber to the channel, you know that it took my husband and I quite a while to get pregnant with this pregnancy, and we went through a loss. And losses happen to about 1 in 4 women. And after you go through a loss, you do have to give your body a couple months to recover. We did tests and there were no issues that we found that were impeding us from getting pregnant, and we were both individuals less than 30 years old. So long story short, you don't know if you're going to be that woman who gets pregnant in the first month or the one where it's going to take several years. Now, if you haven't found the person that you want to marry, I don't want you to put more stress on yourself if you are over the age of 30, for example, because it's not doomed for you. You are not a lost cause. There are women who have pregnancies, successful pregnancies, late up until their 40s, for example. What I'm advocating for is understanding a realistic perspective of your own biology. We grow up only considering how many kids we would want idealistically without actually thinking about the logistics of how that's going to happen. The second one is staying in relationships too long that you know deep down inside are not going to last. We are told to have this fairy tale kind of expectation when we grow up of what romance should be. And I don't want to downplay that you shouldn't have that, because I have that in my marriage. I think that my husband is perfectly suited for me and I love him so much, and I could never imagine being with anybody else. And I do feel as though I am a princess in that fairy tale sense. But I think what a lot of women are forgetting is that aspect of compatibility. I want to make it clear, I don't want you to settle. But that's exactly it. I think that if you ignore compatibility, you are settling. I do believe that you can have what you want as long as you date ruthlessly. And I can't tell you what your red flag should be, although that would be a good video topic. I've seen that video topic be quite popular on the internet, and I think I could add my 2 cents into that as well. But putting that aside, you are going to have to actually outline what your red flags are. And nowadays, I find that many women grow up kind of thinking that their red flags have to do with physical appearance as well as the amount of money that a man makes. But those aren't the things that I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on character. And I also do want you to focus on how you feel with that man. I felt incredibly safe with my husband since the moment that I met him. I had this sense of comfort that I had not felt with anybody else. Is comfort something that you value? Because that is something that I value in my friendships as well as even in my family relationships. I don't surround myself with people whom I don't feel truly comfortable with. And so speaking on the topic of staying in relationships too long, I think about all the time that I wasted on incompatible people or people whom I didn't feel the same way that I do now with my husband, that I could have just not dated, and I could have found my husband much younger. You know, if I would have found my husband when I was 18, 19 years old, I still confidently would have gotten married to him. Now, this isn't telling you that you need to get married young, but for me, being married, especially to my husband, has made me a better person, and it has really helped me get through some of the hardest emotional years of my life, and I want that for you. And speaking of relationships, the next thing that I want to discuss is the 50-50 myth. I think that many people in modern society do advocate for a 50-50 relationship. However, on this channel, you know that I often talk about how I do not believe that this is truly possible. In a relationship, there will always be one person that will carry more weight than the other at different times. And I think that that is normal as long as you are in a loving marriage. I've also come to realize, having this channel over the past 2 to 3 years, we're going on that much amount of time, that many women enjoy homemaking. Even if they have a job or a career outside of the home, they enjoy taking care of the people in their lives. They enjoy tending to their home, decorating it, cooking, cleaning. And there's also that extra emotional load that many women carry, the checklist of things that their family members have to do. And so naturally, a woman's preoccupations tend to look different than a man's. Of course, there are exceptions, but we're just talking about generalities here. But women are continuously fed this lie that it is possible for us to be exactly the same. And so this is why women are burning themselves out, because they are carrying too much. Like I've talked about in the past, I always had a go-getter type A personality, and because I was good at school, it was always assumed that I would have some sort of high-powered career. But the more that I progressed through my schooling, and many of you know that I did quit medical school after going there only for a short period of time, was that when I was honest with what I wanted my life to be, it didn't revolve around working. Now, I never expected necessarily that I would become a full-time homemaker, a housewife. Things just fell into place that way as I actually chased my passions and what I was interested in. But what I had to learn how to do is restructure my life, or perhaps look at alternative jobs that would allow me to be home most of the time and to have a bigger family. And we often don't think about childcare when we are young women in our 20s. What is childcare going to look like when you have that career? And I started to have this worry after I got married, because I got married pretty young and we talked about starting a family. You know, childcare is expensive, and a lot of times women do want to be the people who stay home with the kids when they are young. And it's kind of a shame, because if I was told this as a teenager and young adult, I probably would have a couple kids by now. And it's not that big of a deal, I'm not that old. But when I look at a woman who is younger than me, who has a couple of children, I can't help but feel a little bit envious of her, because I would have liked to have been in that position by now. And back on the topic of relationships, a big lie or a mistake that women tend to make in their 20s is that they don't understand that relationships take work, because we have this culture of quitting. And I've talked about before on my channel that quitting can be very beneficial in a certain sense. And I just talked about relationships where I shouldn't have been in for that long amount of time and I should have quit. But barring all of that aside, what I'm talking about is that when you do the hard work and you do find that person, you have to understand that relationships take work. Even if you are both extremely compatible, you still aren't the same person, and you're going to have disagreements, and you're going to have to learn how to work through those disagreements. And again, I'm not trying to impose my religious beliefs on you, but that's a big factor why women are attracted to biblical femininity as well as the structure of a traditional marriage, because it just works. It just brings peace. And the outside world thinks that we are crazy and that there's something wrong with both the wife and the husband for following this. But if you actually dive deep into those relationships, you will see that they are based on respect as well as love. Both people have the best intentions of each other, and it isn't what you see in mainstream media where there is abuse. Because you are both not the same people, you have to structure your relationship in a way where you kind of have a sense of polarity where you are different, where you bring that masculine and that feminine energy. And this doesn't happen overnight. This takes work. And so I did mention here and there that I wouldn't impose my own personal beliefs on you as a Christian Catholic woman, but I do want to touch on spirituality. Like I discussed in the past, there was a period of my life in my early 20s and my late teens, I guess you could say, where I wasn't so involved in my faith. And that was a mistake because I was chasing happiness through self-help books. And self-help books, they're very great. I love a good psychology book, but they aren't going to replace a strong faith base. The best self-help book in the world, in my own personal opinion, is the Bible. And again, we're not going to dive into my own personal beliefs, but I do want to encourage you, if you have lost your way on your faith journey, whatever that may be for you, to try to find your way back into it, because there's only so much motivation that you can get from the outside world in self-help videos, even my videos, that will truly make a difference. You need more. You need a relationship with something that is greater than yourself to actually keep going. So next up, we're going to talk about trends and diet culture. I'm putting these together because diet culture is so trendy. I grew up as a millennial in the age of skinny jeans, as well as being extremely thin, to the point of those blogs that you would see on Tumblr of thinspiration. That was very prevalent in my high school landscape. Now, I do think that the body positivity movement has gone a little bit too far. Just like diet culture in the past, what I grew up with went too far. You know, it's funny because my body shape right now, where I carry more weight in my hips, and over the past couple of years, I have carried so much more weight exponentially in my chest. That kind of hourglass figure has become more popular, but in the past, it used to not be that way. Same thing with trends in the way that people dress. Before, it used to be wearing those bodycon dresses, which is why you had to be extremely thin, and now we are looking more so at 90s style loose clothing with bucket hats. They're doing some work on my basement, like I mentioned in my past vlog, so we're gonna hold the microphone like this. So the point I wanna make is that when I was younger, I used to spend so much time looking in the mirror and kind of hyper-analyze, and I would cry over the fact that I had hips, but now that is something that is so trendy. So it goes to show that those things are temporary. It would have served me so much more if I would have just focused on myself and maximizing my own beauty. Be honest with yourself. What do you actually like wearing? For me, it's dresses and kind of like that silhouette that cinches you at the waist. You know, if I wore 90s style clothing like those mom jeans as well as those crop tops and the bucket hats, those would not look good on my body type. I would be doing myself a disservice just because they are trendy. So if you want to feel confident and if you want to actually feel more beautiful, ask yourself what looks best on you and what makes you feel the best. And lastly, I do want to reiterate a couple points that I talked about earlier in the video. Through the concept of making your career your life, we are told as young women that the career that we have will be the pinnacle of our success. And for some women that is, and I applaud them because they are truly following what they desire. But for many women, for a lot of women, that is going to revolve around family or the relationship that they have with their significant other. Many women desire a slower pace of life because it appeals to their femininity. Just because you are good at something doesn't mean that you need to make money from it. It's okay to have hobbies, and it's okay to put your career on pause. Criticism that I see countless stay-at-home moms receive online, especially on TikTok and on my videos, you can even go there and see people talking about this as well, is the notion that your spouse will leave you and you will be hung high and dry. But like I've talked about in the past, there is risk in everything. Nobody is telling women that actually there's a lot of risk in a career. Your reputation could be ruined in certain careers by making mistakes. And this doesn't mean that you shouldn't go after a career if that's what you want. My point is that you have to take a leap of faith in whatever direction you think is best for you. Trust me, I know people who have gone into teaching, for example, who have made a simple mistake or have been accused of something or have said something that was misconstrued that totally damaged their career. They were left without a pension, they were fired, and they had to start from scratch. So yes, it is possible that if you choose a full-time homemaker lifestyle, that something horrible can happen, but it doesn't automatically mean that if you choose that lifestyle, it is going to happen. And again, the problem with making your career, your lifestyle, or even making your identity as a homemaker your be-all and end-all is the lack of understanding that you are so much more as a person than just the label of your occupation. We need to stop classifying and pigeonholing people based on what they do in a 9-to-5 way. You are not just a nurse. You are not just an IT worker. You are not just a housewife. You are a loving woman. You are a strong woman. You are a woman of faith. The list goes on and on. And I think that once you realize that about yourself, you will be able to come to an understanding of your true strengths, and then you will actually be able to step into a life that makes you more fulfilled. Once I realized this for myself, I kind of was able to tell people off, and I continuously have to tell people off. And it's funny because even in my own family, there's this running joke that Cynthia does what she wants. And this doesn't mean that I don't care about other people by doing what I want. What they're talking about in terms of me doing what I want is that I follow the life path that appeals to me the most. Get to a point where people understand that you can't be pushed around, that at the end of the day, their opinion on your life doesn't matter, that how much money you bring in doesn't quantify how much of a good person you are or how much of a valuable person you are. Like I talked about earlier in the video, I used to be such a people pleaser because I was academically very competent, but I didn't want that for my life. And this doesn't mean that later on I won't want something like that for my life, but right now that is not the main priority. And there are so many other ways that I am using my skills every day, and I'm proud of myself for the work that I do in the home and for the connections that I've made with all of you online, that is enough for me. Winning an award or getting a large paycheck is something that is just fleeting. It's only going to feel good in the moment unless it is actually something that you want. So friends, we are going to end the video there. I always appreciate when you leave your input down below. I would love to know some mistakes that you made or some realizations that you had that helped you restructure your life, anything along the lines of what I talked about in this video. I do appreciate it. And I'm sending you so much love. I look forward to our next video. Bye-bye.